COVID-19 diseases and the renin-angiotensin system, RAS. Presentation by the Dr. Jean-Marc Sabatier, Ph.D. in Cell Biology and Microbiology, H.D.R. in Biochemistry, Director of Research at the CNRS, France. COVID-19 disease due to overactivation of the renin-angiotensin system, RAS, induced by overload of spike proteins, caused by vaccine, or strong infection. Research areas of Dr. Jean-Marc Sabatier: drug design and chemical synthesis, optimization of peptide structure, conformation, peptide and protein engineering, peptide-based in vitro assays, toxinology and microbiology. I am going to talk about COVID-19 diseases caused by overactivation of the renin-angiotensin system, RAS, induced by the overload of spike proteins by the vaccine, or a strong infection. This ubiquitous system is called the renin-angiotensin system, RAS, and is present in all organs. It is an important system in the body since it controls the autonomic functions: kidneys, pulmonary, cardiovascular. It also controls innate immunity and the various microbial flora. At the level of the renin-angiotensin system, you have first of all the angiotensinogen, which is produced by the liver, and you have the kidneys that produces an enzyme called renin. This renin will degrade the angiotensinogen to form angiotensin I, which is a hormone of the body. In turn, this angiotensin I will be degraded by a receptor called ACE, which is the angiotensin I converting enzyme, which is highly expressed in nerve cells and endothelial and epithelial cells, especially in the lungs, and at the level of the entire vascular system, since this receptor lines the inner surface of the blood vessels. Thus, the ACE receptor will degrade angiotensin I to angiotensin II. This angiotensin II is normally degraded by another receptor called ACE2, which is the angiotensin II converting enzyme. This degradation will produce angiotensin I-7. When there is an overload of spike proteins caused by the vaccine or a strong infection, the vaccinal or viral spike protein comes to recognize the ACE2 receptor, and thus hinders the degradation of angiotensin II, which is found in excess. This excess will overactivate the angiotensin II receptor, which is the AT1R. It is this overactivated receptor that is responsible for COVID diseases. In particular, concerning the brain, this overactivated receptor will cause headache and confusion. It can also cause inflammation, insomnia, hypogeusia, cerebral vascular accidents, myalgia, encephalopathy, dizziness. Concerning the liver, for example, this overactivated receptor will cause an increase in bilirubin and aminotransferase levels. It will be able to provoke a microvascular steatosis, hepatocytes degeneration, as well as hepatitis. Concerning the kidneys, this overactivated receptor is also responsible for oliguria, hematuria, proteinuria, a decrease in blood pressure, acute chronic kidneys damage, and renal failure. Concerning the gastrointestinal tract, it can cause nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, anorexia, abdominal pain, and microbial infections. Concerning the lungs, one can find a dry cough, sneezing, rhinorrhea, sore throat, dyspnea, pneumonia. Acute respiratory distress syndrome. Concerning the heart failure, myocarditis, pericarditis, atrial fibrillations, acute coronary syndrome, hypertension, endothelial dysfunction, microvascular diseases, thromboembolism, fibrosis, inflammation, palpitation, arrhythmia. Concerning the pancreas, a decrease in pancreatic blood flow, inflammation, fibrosis and insulin resistance and therefore diabetes mellitus. Additionally, the damage caused to the reproductive organs can affect fertility. Among the pathologies described, some can be fatal in the short term. These are the pathologies in red. It includes acute respiratory distress syndrome. Cardiovascular diseases include heart failure and inflammations such as myocarditis and pericarditis. There are also strokes and thrombosis corresponding to the occlusion of blood vessels. Finally, I would like to remind you that the dysfunction of the renin-angiotensin system is responsible for macrophage activation syndrome, which is called MAS, mast cell activation syndrome, MCAS, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth SIBO, hypokalemia, which is a deficit of potassium in the blood that can be responsible for very severe pathologies, including chronic fatigue syndrome and paralysis of the limbs. It can cause autoimmune diseases, because the renin-angiotensin system controls innate immunity. It can also cause cancer, as the renin-angiotensin system is involved in cell differentiation and proliferation, and promotes the growth of blood vessels.